I wish all of you a very pleasant day today. Today, we celebrate the feast of the Apostle Barnabas. Let me read today from the Acts of the Apostles, where we hear of Barnabas and Saul. This, of course, is the reading that was set for the day today, the feast of Barnabas. So let me just share with you these words of the Acts of the Apostles, and then you can maybe see as to where maybe all of this is leading us as we again continue to believe and trust in Jesus, the risen Christ. And therefore, we hear these words from the Acts of the Apostles. In those days, a great number who believed turned to the Lord. The news about them reached the ears of the church in Jerusalem, and they sent Barnabas to go to Antioch. When he arrived and saw the grace of God, he rejoiced and encouraged them all to remain faithful to the Lord in firmness of heart, for he was a good man, filled with the Holy Spirit and faith. And a large number of people was added to the Lord. Then he went to Tarsus to look for Saul, and when he had found him, he brought him to Antioch. For a whole year they met with the church and taught a large number of people. And it was in Antioch that the disciples were first called Christians. Now, there were in the church at Antioch prophets and teachers: Barnabas, Simeon, who was called Niger, Lucius of Cyrene, Manon, who was a close friend of Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. While they were worshiping the Lord and fasting, the Holy Spirit said, "Set apart for me Barnabas and Saul for the work to which I have called them." Then, completing their fasting and prayer, they laid hands on them and sent them off. So we hear about Barnabas and Saul, how they were set apart to proclaim Jesus, the risen Christ, and then sent off to do just that. Last week, I was in one of our local business establishments, one of our stores, and I was visiting with the owner. And she asked me, "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" Namely, the pandemic and then the social rest, the protests, which really seek an end to racism in our country. And I said, "Sure, I have." Namely, the 60s. Let me just walk you through the 60s. The Cuban Missile Crisis, the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam protests, Kent State, the Sexual Revolution, the musical revolution as epitomized in Woodstock, the rise of the hippie movement, the evolution of the drug culture, horrific crimes like that of Roger Speck and Charlie Manson, the 1968 Democratic Convention marked by protests and violence, and oh, by the way, Vatican II. It was a decade of unrest. It was a transition in our nation. It was a transition in our world to something else, ideally to something better. When Barnabas and Saul were set apart, they were in the midst of a local transition. They were in the midst of a global transition. They were to go forward and to proclaim Jesus, the risen Christ. That was going to create unrest, to say the very least. And we hear of that, of course. But remember, the word Barnabas means child, son of encouragement. As discouraging as all of this was, Barnabas remained a man of encouragement. He kept telling people, hang in there, keep looking forward. When I was being licensed as a therapist, I remember my supervisor, Gina Baker, say to me that, for the most part, a lot of counseling, a lot of therapy is nothing but cheerleading. Hang in there. Don't give up the ship. Keep looking forward. Be hopeful. And that is, I think, what we are asked to do too, because by virtue of our baptism, we are set apart and we are sent forth to proclaim Jesus, the risen Christ, a better way of life altogether, not only for ourselves, but for the common good. And therefore, we are to be people of encouragement. May be hard to do, but yet that is what is before us. This great possibility that the world can be turned over into a better world altogether. Let us then be advocates for justice, and let us be advocates for peace. That all the evils in our world, especially as we are made acutely aware of, namely the evil of racism, that we may all the more be committed to the saving message of Jesus, promoting the dignity of each and every person, seeking to live a new sense of equality for ourselves and for others. Let us be not only people of encouragement, let us then be people of hope. Make it a great day.